la 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 la. Mama had a baby, mama had a baby, mama had a baby. La, 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 One, two, three, four. When I get the chance and got time on my hands, I'm gonna do what I can to make it known, making it known. Welcome, humans. This is Anthony Scott again with another episode of Making It North, a web series about people who create and make things in Maine. About the things they make, how they make them, why, the joy it gives them and others. And today, my guests are two of my favorite humans on the planet. I have a lot of favorite humans because I play in a band with a lot of favorite humans. Among them are these two guys. They're a creative force to be reckoned with. They played in a bunch of bands and projects over the years, and they're fun to listen to and fun to watch. And I am so glad I get to sing and perform next to them on stage. Welcome, guys, to Making It North.
Thanks so much, Anthony. It's good to
Thanks,
be
man.
here. Woo!
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you. I called you guys some of my favorite humans. So I just, of course.
Wow, that's a lot of pressure, dude.
Well, we can spread that among 18 people.
There's like Gandhi, Mozart, Brian Doug.
Brian Doug. I'll take it.
Yeah. And you guys are such a huge part of not only the music itself with Start City Syndicate. You're also, I mean, good grief, I don't know if we'd have a stage presence if it wasn't for you guys being such a solid core for us to work around. I know. I mean, I don't know. It's just a venue, I guess. I was just used to doing religious music primarily, just singing in church or in front of some large groups too. I have performed in front of large religious camps and groups, of around 1,000 people or so. But something about changing the venue and doing something different. It's like I told Chris this. It's like I didn't even know what to do with my hands. Of course, that's part of it too. I'm used to be behind a piano when I do it.
Well, I'll be honest with you, Anthony, and Doug can attest to this. I was a little weary when we first started because you hadn't been exposed to that kind of music as much, and there's certain phrasing that in our first few rehearsals you weren't getting. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what are we going to do? Because you have an amazing voice. Nobody questions that. But I was like, what are we going to do? I mean, do we need to sing them? I mean, how would Anthony feel about that? So I was in the very beginning, I have to say, I was a little worried how this was going to go, but obviously I needn't be.
That's
done. Nailed it.
Yeah. Saying something there. The phrasing, that's the word I've been looking for. What is it that sometimes I have a hard time? It's the phrasing. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's enough about my own hang-ups. Let's talk about you guys. First of all, what are some projects that you're working on right now? Things that are in the works that maybe the public isn't aware of yet.
The public isn't aware of yet. Doug, I'll let you go. I talk all the time.
We're working on our own nuclear powered generator.
All right, let me talk now. So nobody's supposed to know about that.
I made it in my basement.
The basement of the science building.
Maybe the science building.
I'm sorry. We should have warned you, Anthony, when you asked us to do this, that when we're together, we're 12 years old. We revert back.
Yeah, which is great. I'm happy about that. I love the chance to act pre-adolescent myself. So that's my life. I mean, I did want to make the whole toenail clipping back scratcher, So I mean, yeah.
So to answer your question, what are we working on currently that the public doesn't know about? Well, we've had a band, Common Crossing, for 25 years. No, it was 20 years in 2018, I believe, right? 22 years. So, and we've put out an album. We've got enough material to put out like 4 albums, but we actually released a proper album back in 2010, I think. Right? Is that right?
Yeah.
And
Well, how old's your son?
Which one?
Number 4.
Number 4 is 10. Yeah.
Because he
That's
was
right.
born during while we were making the album.
That's right. Yep. So that was the.
Let me make sure I understood that correctly. You were in a studio while your wife was giving birth?
No.
Oh
No. I am not that stupid.
If that had happened, he wouldn't be here right now talking to you.
No.
Police would still be looking for his body.
No, my wife was pregnant while we were in the recording studio. We recorded this the album in Bangor, and so I think we did it on a weekend. And when he was born. We were down there. What month were we down there recording?
January.
Because he was born January 24th, so it was the weekend after or something like that.
It was Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday week, that long weekend.
Right.
Okay. Because we went in on a Friday morning, and then we recorded the Sunday night because then we had Monday off, and then we had to go down individually and do separate. Like I had to go back down like a month or so later.
Yep.
Well, actually, the next weekend after we did all the main tracks, Shane and I went down and did I think we did some just like odd percussion stuff for a while.
Overdubs and stuff like that.
And then I went back in like March and I redid all the drums, all the songs.
Which is a task in and of itself. So we essentially did the basic tracks for 11 songs in 3 days, which is pretty quick. Yeah. But we've known the songs forever because we've been writing songs and playing our own songs since the mid 90s. So some of the songs that we put on that album were at the time we recorded it were 15 years old. So to answer your question, we're actually our guitar player moved to Nashville 3 years ago. Was it 3 years? 2 years.
Yes. I think this is the 3rd year.
Yeah. And he's doing amazing. He's a musical director for a bunch of bands, and he's doing some session work and things like that. But he said that if we were going to do another album, he would play guitar for us. So we have some new songs that we've written, and we have some old songs that we haven't done anything with yet. So we recorded some tracks, and we sent them down to him. So he's going to put his guitar parts on. So to answer your question, we're trying to record some new music and just put something new out there because it's a shame that it just has to sit around, and we don't do anything with it.
Having music, having songs, and it sitting around, I have found to a great degree is caused by not being sure the best way to get it to the public. There are options out there, but none of them are linear. None of them seem very, very much of a sure thing.
Right.
And now there are more options today than there used to be, but those are new options, and you have to kind of balance. Can you use those things with any confidence, and what do you gain from it? So. Yeah,
and not only that, Chris Morton and I have had this conversation, and I don't know if you have this same thing going on in your creative life, Anthony. But for me, having written songs and have them and not doing anything with them is creatively stifling to me because, and Doug and I have had this conversation as well. When I write, I'll write so many songs and then I just stop because, I've got all of these, but nobody's ever heard them. And it's hard to get back on the horse. You know what I mean? And I usually say that unless I've recorded a song I can't write another song. That's kind of an exaggeration, but it's difficult for me to get back into it if I've got so many songs that I haven't done anything with.
Yeah.
So it's a weird phenomenon for sure.
Now, let me ask you this. You haven't done anything with. Now, does that mean simply recording, or are you talking about even if you have the chance to perform them from an audience? That
Both.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, both. I've got several songs that I probably have 20 to 30 songs that no one's ever heard.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've just written them and we've not played them out. Even the band, well, actually, no, probably the band has heard a lot of them, but we've never had the chance to do anything with them.
Yeah, when you say here, like after practice, we'll sit around and play a song or two.
No, actually, we don't practice.
No, I'm talking about when Star City has heard them. Is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about Common Crossing?
Common Crossing has heard them. Yeah, because what I tend to do is I'll write a song, and then I'll sit down at the kitchen table and I'll record it into something and then send it in a message thread and say, here's a song I just wrote, and they'll be like, oh, it's a good job, But we don't get together because our bass player lives in the Portland area. We never rehearse. So if Comic Crossing has a show, that's our show. We show up and we play, and
Wow.
and sometimes we'll have the time to show each other something at sound check and work something out. But we're trying to get better at it. We're trying to, like I said, now that we have the internet and all that stuff, that we're trying to share files and do all kinds of stuff. But we're all busy,
Yeah. It's a constant struggle to try to make sure you carve out time for the creative side of things.
That's true.
And being stuck at the house in COVID-19 doesn't help.
Right. Actually, I got more creative with COVID-19, largely because, and I really can't explain it. I was working from home for a little while, and when you work from home, yeah, you do your work, but you also can sneak downstairs if you want to and play guitar in front of a computer, and nobody knows about it, except my boss now. Not that I've said that out loud.
Yeah, busted.
Right. But I don't know. In the past couple months, we started our podcast, and I started singing into a computer and putting it on YouTube, and I started doing live shows, Facebook Live streams. Every Friday night in May, except for the last couple Friday nights, I do a live stream. I never would have done that before, but I needed to get creative. I mean, we were hurting.
Yeah, you're right, and I've dealt with it the same way. I think what I meant is getting together and practicing and performing live is what we were missing. But you're right, making it north. What we're doing now, I started that like 2 weeks after I got sent home to try to teach at home. Yeah, weird. Yeah, so I think you're right. I've gotten a lot of creative things out. Let me ask you this: you said something about now, Doug. I have watched you. You thrive in those live performances. I mean, you are like in your element to the point that every place we play, people always remember the stage presence of Doug Cronkite. And that's something I would think that's an itch you can't scratch right now, right?
Before he answers, wait. Before you answer, Doug, let me just say this. The O'Brien and Doug podcast should be called the Doug Podcast. I am happy to be his straight man. I'm happy to be the Abbott to his Costello, because I'm just feeding him, and I guarantee you the 27 listeners that we have are listening because of him. So I agree with you wholeheartedly, Anthony. Go ahead. You can answer his question, Doug.
I forgot what the question was.
Talk about how you're not getting to do that right now.
To what?
Be on stage and perform and.
That's I don't know. I do miss it because it's kind of like that's like my outlet, because for years I've been the drummer with Common Crossing. You sit on a stool in the back
Right.
And that's it. You play the drums, you sing, but you don't get to be out front interacting with the people as much.
Ah.
And I'm a little, when I got into the Syndicate, and they were like, well, you're gonna be out front, and I'm like, I don't know if that's a good idea. That's not that's not my milieu. Ooh,
Wow.
um,
You're using big
yeah,
words, man.
I don't, I'm not, I'm just goofing off and having fun. That's my whole thing.
Yeah.
And I figure if I'm having fun, then everybody with me is hopefully going to have fun.
Yeah.
And that's going to translate, it's going to be out into the crowd and they're going to have fun. It's kind of like that symbiotic cyclical thing, that, you push out that energy, to everybody around you and then out to the crowd, and they get in and they push it back to you, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna feed off this, and it just keeps going that way.
Yeah.
And I really dig that. I like to have a good time, and I want everybody else to have a good time, and then we're just all having a good time together.
Right.
Okay, I gotta go.
Yeah, positive feedback loop. We are going to get to enjoy that aspect of creativity, do some performing here soon. We get to practice all Wednesday night, which I'm looking forward to practice.
We were just talking about this on our podcast. I am anxious, not in a bad way, actually, because I have to relearn the songs because my brain is so fried that I'm like really, really kind of shaking. I'm in anticipation for the gig and for rehearsal Wednesday night. I want to be, because I get so busy and I don't have time to sit down with my guitar and practice. And I know that when I show up to rehearsal and everybody's all rehearsed and ready to go, and I'm the one who's still learning the song, it's frustrating, and I recognize that. And so I want to be on top of my game this Wednesday, because it's been a while since we've played anything. So
yeah, and you unlike me, you've got to do two things at once. I just sing, man.
Well,
I sing and
Brian's the Swiss Army knife of musicians.
Yeah, that's right. Keyboard, guitar, and then the vocals, man. You need to throw a harmonica or a kazoo in there or something, right?
Something.
Put two cymbals between your knees, and yeah. Now, so we got that practice coming up, and then we have a gig in Oakfield. It's going to be people in their cars and stuff.
Right.
Coming up here. When is that? That's what, 2 weeks away or something?
No, that's Saturday.
That's Saturday, man.
Okay. I think I'll do all the times, time just starts running together in COVID-19, man.
I don't want to be in Oakfield going, where's Anthony?
That's why I show up to practice, so I actually get a heads up. But you do have a good point about us being rusty. I think I need to take some significant amount of time and listen and go over that set list the next couple of days before I show up to practice. So, now you've talked about sharing stuff online. Are you sharing original stuff online?
Yeah. I've done a couple of. I didn't do as many as I had hoped to do. But I call this the fun dungeon. This is where I record the podcast and I did the live streams and things like that. And I sat down with a camera and recorded a couple original songs to one of them that Doug has heard, the good friend, the court jester one, and the other one nobody had heard. So yeah, it's original stuff. I've done covers too, but mostly original stuff.
Yeah, because that's the thing, that you're always counseled against, at least especially from a literature side of things, because I publish, writing and stuff too, is, you start self-publishing and, and then it doesn't look good to publishers in the future and stuff. But I don't know. I'm at the stage of the game, especially in the musical side, where, I'm nearly 50.
Yeah.
And I don't care if I ever have a chart topper and have my name in lights. I just want to get my music in front of people.
Yeah, I'm the same. For sure.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned the podcast. You guys tell the audience about the podcast, how often you have episodes, the kinds of things you talk about. Yeah, give us a sense of that podcast.
Doug?
Well, it's the Seinfeld of podcasts.
Okay.
It's a podcast. It's
About
a podcast
nothing.
about nothing.
Gotcha.
No,
Well,
we stick to whatever. I mean, we'll start off with maybe whatever's going on with us. You know, maybe something happened to us, or like last week I watched a documentary on Robert Johnson. So I wanted to talk about that because Robert Johnson is such an influence on you know, rock and roll, like Eric Clapton and Keith Richards and all those guys, which turned into what rock is today. So
right.
I just thought it was interesting, and you know, the legend of him selling his soul to the devil at the crossroads in Mississippi, you know, that kind of thing. So we'll talk about stuff like that. And then sometimes, you know, we're both big sports fans. So we'll talk about the Patriots or, you know, whatever else. You know, lately it's been the Patriots because Tom Brady and Gronk just abandoned New England and just took off for warmer climates. That's how you know they're New Englanders. So, you know.
Yeah, they
retire and go to Florida, you know. So
true New England in Florida.
That's right. So, you know, so we'll talk about, and then we do something fun every podcast. We call it climbing the wall of tunes. Brian, you're gonna have to explain that one because it's in the fun dungeon.
Yeah. So I don't know if I can. I probably can't show you this. I had an extensive CD collection. I had over 5,000 CDs.
Wow.
And I recently purged them. I'm now down to about
4,999.
No. I'm now down. I donated them. I gave a bunch to Doug, and then I donated them to Catholic Charities. But I'm down to 850, something like that. So I donated quite a few CDs. Wow. But I kept the ones that are important to me, and that I mean they were all important to me. But for obviously I bought them. But I mean these ones have some sort of significance, and it's all genres. So I have them on a wall here right in front of me. And what we typically do is I have one of my kids come down, and they close their eyes and they reach up as far as they can reach, and they grab an album, and then Doug tries to guess the album or the artist, and then we talk about our experience with that artist, you know, and just the history and why the CD or the artist is so important to me, and we kind of go, as you know, in whatever direction it takes us. Like for example, we pulled a Rick Springfield album a couple of weeks ago, and it was one of his newer albums, but I got to talk about how Rick Springfield's the guy that made me want to be a musician. And you want to hear that, go to listen to the podcast, because I'm not going to tell that story. But and also the fact that I interviewed Rick Springfield on the radio. So that's where this all comes from, is that I was in radio for 25 years. And then Doug was with me on the radio for the past, or not for the past, but for the last 4 years. And we had a blast on the radio. We would talk to listeners on the air and play requests. And it was a blast. We had a lot of fun. And you could tell a lot like Doug and I are on stage with the Star City Syndicate. We were on the radio, and we just had a lot of fun. And when that ended, we tried to start up a podcast, but we ended up, it failed miserably because we couldn't get together to do it. Right. And so when COVID started and the advent of Zoom,
who I still think is behind it.
Yeah. Zoom, the creators of Zoom are behind COVID-19. That's what he thinks.
We need to make money.
It's working, man.
So that's where it came from. We had a radio show, and so this podcast is like an extension of that, where I talked about how my 20-year-old daughter didn't know how to plunge a toilet. We talk about various things, but mainly when we were kind of setting up the mechanism of the podcast, they ask you what kind of genre the podcast is, and we called it music commentary, because we love music and we talk about music a lot. So it's a music commentary podcast where we talk about everything.
But music's in there consistently.
It is.
Yeah. So I didn't know that. That's interesting. You kind of developed your whole dynamic through the radio and in on stage in band, and then brought it. Oh, that's interesting.
Well, we developed our own dynamic in junior high.
Yeah. This has been going on a long time.
We've known each other for over 30 years, so it's yeah, we
Keep
yeah.
the whole junior high vibe going. That's all, right?
Yeah. Yes.
We're like an old married couple at this point.
Right. Ooh.
Yeah. Did you see that too?
I did.
Zoom just put up something. Hey, I don't have a 40-minute limit on mine because I don't have.
I just clicked OK. Is that okay?
Yeah. Hopefully that doesn't show up in the video. Zoom product placement there.
Oh.
Okay.
That must have been just you guys because I didn't say anything.
Yeah. We're their valued customers.
Apparently.
I have Zoomed a lot in the last couple of months. Holy cow.
I bet.
Oh, I did 6-7 meetings in one day. But anyway.
So let me ask you a question, not to turn it around on you, but because part of this interview is going to be featured on our podcast as well. Mm-hmm. So how did you what made you think of starting this whole series?
Yeah, cool question. It just so happens that reporter at Star City Herald asked me a similar question. I didn't know how that was going to happen, and didn't expect that at all. But anyway, Melissa Lazat got a hold of me. Yeah, basically it's this. People are really, kind of scared right now. Some of them are very angry right now. We got the whole protest and stuff going on now.
Oh, my word, yeah.
But there's just a lot of negative stuff going on, right? And it's not that I'm not aware of those things and I don't feel those things too, and I don't have the same worries. I mean, the economy and COVID and now this. But I found that a lot of the time I seemed to be coping with it better than a lot of folks. Like I wasn't getting stressed out. I wasn't feeling anxious, and this downtime wasn't driving me nuts because I was being creative with it. And I realized it was my creativity that was keeping me a little bit sane. A little bit. I don't think I'm all the way sane, but it's keeping me a little bit sane. And I realized, man, if I could turn more people onto their constructive creative side, then maybe they'd have a tool to take this negative downtime and turn it into something and feel better about themselves and the world in general. And I'm sure you've heard this. You've heard someone say, you share something with them, a song or something you've written, and they say, "Oh, I wish I could do that, but I'm not a creative person." You heard anyone say?
Oh yeah.
I don't even believe that's true. I think that's a myth. And a lot of it is because this notion of being creative, you have to do something that's considered art, right? It's got to be music. It's got to be literature. It's got to be a painting. But I know that some of the same brain cells that I use when ideas start hitting me for music or for a poem or whatever it is I'm creating, some of those same brain cells are at work whenever I'm trying to figure out I'm not a plumber, but occasionally I find because I have a home, I have to do a little bit of that work. Boy, I'm glad that creative side's there because it helps me run a pipe where a pipe doesn't want to run. You know what I mean? It's
for sure.
People do creative things all the time, but because it's considered creative or art, they diminish that in themselves. And plus I think life sometimes just pounds the notion out of them and they don't value their own opinion. So I just think of
like a computer programmer, like somebody who's doing code or something like that. And what they develop, what they create with that code. It may just seem like a monotonous type thing, but they're making something. They're creating something that wasn't there before.
And I know I get a lot of confidence, a lot of self-satisfaction. I feel good about myself. Then I want to go share it with others. I feel like I've got something to contribute to the world now. It just makes me feel good in a whole bunch of different ways. I was like, man, if I can make other people realize that you can feel good like this too, then hey, I've done my job.
I think that's we're the same. I think that's one of the reasons this podcast is having such a positive effect on me, because one of the aspects that I miss about being in radio is the editing. I used to just love editing, and I know Doug has noticed the past couple of episodes I've been throwing in like snippets of movie sound bites and stuff like that, just to make it fun. And it really, I mean, when I edit the podcast, I'm in my zone, and it's fun and it's creative, and I don't get to go there very often. So I think that's why this podcast is so beneficial to me personally. And I know it's beneficial to Doug, because every time we get done a podcast, I can't wait till next week.
I'm a junkie, man.
You know, when I think of the type of energy that being creative gives me, I think of Doug.
Yeah.
I mean, when Doug is doing his thing, it's all positive, man. It's positive energy, right?
Yep.
And, by the way, you're talking about what you're doing in the editing process. It sounds like you're much more of a pro than I am, so I'm going to have to pick your brain in the future, because
Sure.
I just make videos and I edit out the dead time and put it on, and that's about the extent of my knowledge. But well, let's talk about where did the idea for the podcast and the climbing the sea. Talk about how that idea came together, because one of the things that mystifies people about the creative process is they think, they used to call it the muse, right? Some voice from the ether spoke to me, and it's like, whoa. And so it ties to the notion that only talented people are creative. But these things, once you open yourself up, I said in another video, I believe, people that are open to creative things, it's just people that have opened themselves up. They're just open, right? They don't let the compartments and the boxes tell them what they can and can't do. And when it happens, creative things happen. So talk about how the features of the podcast itself, and then climbing the musical wall, or whatever you call it. Talk about how those things just came to you guys.
Well, if you could see, if you could see my CD collection in front of me, it's literally a wall of CDs. So the wall of tunes. How did that idea come about? The name came about just by looking at it and me thinking it looks like a wall of music, and which it is. I don't know. We were looking for things to talk about. I don't know. Did we do the wall of tunes in the very first episode this year? I don't think we did.
I don't think so.
No, we did it in the second episode. I think I was looking for content. And I know I wanted to talk about music because we have such a passion for music. And I wanted an avenue to do that, or something to spark a conversation about music. And I think at first I thought I was just going to reach up and grab one and say, well, let's talk about this or something like that. And then I got my kids involved, and I said, why don't you pick one? And so we turned it into them climbing the wall of tunes, and then we turned it into a guessing game, which is fun to listen to because he asked some interesting questions about the artist. And I think it was just an avenue for us to talk, to have a conversation about music. And
let me get this straight. The kid picks a tune, one of your children, and then Doug basically has 20 questions trying to figure out which one.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. And you would think that would get old, but it's a lot of fun because, and I know that the 27 people that are listening, I think it's 33 now, actually, Doug. I looked at the stats. I think we have 33 listeners. Oh, and did you get my message?
About
We've gone international.
We're international, yeah.
Yes. Wow. We have a listener in Indonesia.
Indonesia, anyway, wow.
Indonesia, yeah. So, where was I? Oh yeah.
That guy must be really bored.
Yeah, right.
Just saying.
I will tell you this because I've had some students in Asia, in South Korea specifically, and maybe one in China, I don't remember. Have been doing the remote thing, and a lot of them, if I had an afternoon class, they couldn't join, right? Because they're asleep when we're awake.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So what was I saying? The wall of tunes.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, the guessing game. So he'll ask, is it a solo artist or a group? And I'll tell him, is it male or female? And what's the question that you asked? What's their
height of popularity?
Height of popularity. And so I know that one of our 33 listeners, they probably have guessed it already, right? and Doug is still asking the questions, and they know they're probably yelling at Doug.
Well,
come on,
it's funny you said that, because I got a message from a woman up in Fort Kent. She listens to us, and she's always like, I know it already. Get it, Doug. Go on. You know, so she's had it like 3 moves ago, and I'm just like, is it? I don't know.
So I build my fan base by driving them nuts.
Right.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I this is a common theme I've run into with other videos and other creative people, is a lot of the stuff, it develops organically just from stuff going on already in their lives, and they see this thing and see that thing, oh, I can put that together, and it's kind of that's one fun. I love all parts of the creative process, but I really do love that initial stage when everything is just, you're kind of riffing, things are just happening, and that's the reason I love music so much, especially live performance music, because it's totally in the moment. You're creating in the moment,
Yep.
Which is kind of like a little bit like walking a very exciting, bouncing tightrope.
Right.
And when you're doing it, band, I told Chris, it's like team surfing.
I like that. Team surfing.
I was gonna say it's like, crossing a tightrope going across the Grand Canyon during a hurricane.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the way our podcasts start usually. We don't have anything, and that's why we say it's a podcast about nothing. Because like tonight, I said to Doug, I said, do you have anything you want to talk about? He said, well, I kind of want to. I don't know. I was thinking about this, and I said, all right, cool. Let's start with SpaceX. So we just started talking the fact that the 2 astronauts were named Bob and Doug, and we have a friend named Bob, and this is Doug, and so so that's where we went. But you're right, it's riffing, and again, we've known each other for over 30 years, so this is essentially, I think of this podcast as a phone conversation between 2 friends, and anybody can listen.
Yeah.
This is actually the normal way we hang out.
Pretty much.
Now,
if you were to eavesdrop in our conversation, you'd be like, oh my God, are they on the radio, or is this what they're doing? And it's usually what we're doing. So,
or quoting movies.
Oh yeah, quoting movies constantly.
Do you know what those are?
A part of what intimidated me when I first joined Star City, like I mentioned, is because I felt like I was stepping into some strange new space, right? And so I wasn't sure what to do with myself. Well, if what you're doing is just being you all the time, you never have that psychological hurdle to have to try to get past,
Absolutely. And why wouldn't you be you?
Anthony,
all the time?
There's nothing going on in here, man. There's like a hamster, and he passed out 8 months ago, and he's just kind of laying there, and the wheel's going like this. That's basically going on in my head right now.
I can hear it. That's the promo. That's the entire promo.
We do need to do something with that. You guys, somebody need to, because that's too fun.
I'm not kidding. That's going to be in the promo.
Cool.
How did our interview with Anthony Scott go?
You know what? You know what's going to be funny is if we are playing a show later and some fan walks up to Doug and starts doing that.
Are you dude? Are you kidding me? I'm going to do it to you during the show. I'm going to be like,
yeah, I bet you are.
Those are my favorite. Actually, those are my favorite parts of the show. Is when you start messing with Anthony while he's trying to sing. What's the one song there?
Sweet Caroline.
I can't take my eyes off of you.
Yes.
Where you're always looking at Anthony with I can't take my eyes off of you, and you're just kind of staring at him.
Yep.
So, yeah, but he doesn't always look. That's the problem. Sometimes he's really concentrated on what he's doing. I'm just like, I'm like that super stalker lady. Just like, Look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm paying attention. Look at me, look at me.
But the audience notices.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know what would be funny is if, of course, I don't know about the timing of it, but if you had enough gap, and sometimes you've done this, come all the way around, because usually Brian, you're in between us, right? Come all the way around and slowly like be scoping me out the whole time I'm singing that,
Oh, he's done it. You just haven't seen it.
I've done that. Yeah, you just haven't seen it.
I am too in the zone. I didn't even realize it.
Sometimes I'll go back behind the horns and I'll just be like staring at you, like passing through people. Just
Oh God! No wonder the audience loves you, man. I don't have that. I'm staring out front. Oh man, that's great. That's great. Well, let's talk about the songwriting process. We've talked about the podcast process of creating the podcast. Is there any confluence, anything where that process is similar for writing a song, or is it just totally unique for you? Does it totally come from a different place?
hold on, I gotta Google confluence. Hold on.
I just happened to use it 15 minutes ago, or right before the show, so it's fresh in my brain. I can remember where two rivers come together.
What was the question again?
Basically, the creative process that you use for creating the podcast, and how it just kind of happens organically and turns into something. Is that the same way a song comes to you, or would you say it's really different?
It's happened both ways. It is, for the most part, it's really different. For the most part, it's I have maybe I have a title, or maybe I have an idea of a because I like my songs to be story driven. And not necessarily, I mean, I could put myself in the shoes of the person singing, the story won't necessarily be from my life, but right. It will be from my point of view. You know what I mean? So sometimes I'll have an idea and I'll work through that idea. Sometimes I sit down at a piano or with a guitar and just start playing, and it comes out. Those are the best times, because I mean, it's like, it's like striking gold, because it's, and not even necessarily that it's a great song that I'm writing, but the fact that it's all coming out at the same time. I love it when that happens. It's very rare that happens.
Suddenly comes together and it feels whole. Feels
right.
Like it's not a piece of. It's a complete piece of
right.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen very often, but so when it does, it's pretty cool. But the rest of it is, it's. I always used to say, I like having. I don't enjoy the process of writing. And that's not necessarily true. It's just to emphasize my point that I love having written. So it's like it's work to write the song, and sometimes it's not a lot of fun, just because you're not getting, or I'm not getting what I'm looking for. It's not good enough. I'm always revising and redoing things, and I don't like this. And just recently, to clean out this basement so I could start the fun dungeon, I found, Doug knows this, I found all kinds of old lyrics, like from when I was in high school, and
wow,
and I was awful. I mean, it was. I mean, I was reading some of these lyrics. I'm like, what was I thinking? It was so bad, like criminally bad. And I recognize the fact that you have to start somewhere, right, and you have to learn, and you have to go through the process, and you get, so you kind of know what you're doing. But I always question myself, and I think that's an artist. I think there's insecurity there, and I'm always questioning whether I'm good enough, and things like that. And so it comes from a different, to answer your question, it comes from a different kind of place. The podcast is just, it almost seems like writing a song, I'm trying to prove something, right? Like I'm trying to prove I know how to write a song. I'm trying to prove I know how to create an engaging story. With the podcast, it's just like, how you doing, Doug? we just kind of vamp, and we just go with it. I wish songwriting could be more like that. Is just kind of sitting down and just coming up with stuff. And sometimes it is, and those times are amazing. Yeah. And I'm talking a lot. Doug, you need to chime in here.
So Doug, tell us about
stuff.
Yeah. You guys did mention before the show started that you have worked on a couple of projects together. How is that dynamic different than just writing a song alone? And Doug, what do you feel like you contribute to that process?
My looks. No, usually what'll happen is it's more fun doing it together because then you're bouncing ideas off of each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, maybe he's come up with a verse and maybe he's stuck on a line. Maybe I come up with that line and then we can move on. And then it gets, you get that snowball effect and it just gets easier and easier. And finally you got a song. But usually it's like, I'll have an idea for a song and I'll go like, I had an idea for a song. This was 20 years ago now. My 10-year reunion was coming up. And I was going to his house one day. We're going to just hang out at his house. And I said, on the drive up here, I was thinking about my 10 reunion. We should write a song. And then before I knew it, he had a pad and paper out. We were writing the song. So, and it's fun. It's fun that way when you collaborate like that. It makes it a lot more fun and a lot more. I think it's a lot easier because I can't write a song on my own. That's not how this is wired, unfortunately. I mean, I try, but
the hamster,
the hamsters, it's like it's got his tongue hanging out, trying to get the pellet,
That's what I was going to say too.
What
was that? I don't co-write a lot. I'd like to co-write more, but writing with other people, especially writing with Doug, is just fun. It's just, and we don't take ourselves seriously. If you listen to the song 10-Year Reunion, you'll realize that we don't take ourselves seriously. But it's just, I call Doug and I'm gonna get all teary-eyed now. Doug is like my security blanket because I've played shows solo. Air hug. I've played shows solo before, and I like just solo acoustic shows, and I do not enjoy myself for the most part. I mean, I like singing and I like playing, but actually that goes back to that story when you came to see me. Remember at the restaurant?
Oh, the old
Slopes.
Yes.
Slopes,
Yeah. So, not to go off on a tangent, but
this is great.
So I was in a loud hard rock band for about 8 years, and we put out 2 albums, most of which I'd written because, well, sorry, my computer went to sleep here. There, it's still going. So I was in a rock band, hard rock band for 8 years. We put out 2 albums, and so for that 8 years, let's see, Common Crossing started in the mid-90s, and then our bass player moved away. And when our bass player moved away, we kind of went quiet. And in 2001, I joined this hard rock band and was in that band for 8 years. And so Doug and I, although we hung out and we were still friends and we communicated and things like that, we didn't play music together, or rarely did we play music together. And actually, there was a time when we hadn't seen each other for quite a while, I don't think. But towards the end of my tenure in that hard rock band, I got sick of it. And I said, I'm going to do some acoustic shows. So I would go and play at restaurants, just me and an acoustic guitar. And Slopes was one of those restaurants. Well, Doug came to see me one night. And I said, Doug, get up here. Because, we were in the band together, and he would sing with me and I would sing harmony to him and things like that. So he came up and he sang some songs with me that night. And we had such a blast that we actually, I think it was, I don't know if it was that night or if it was the next time I played there. I think it was that night. Someone came up to us and said, we're having a garage party. Would you guys play at our garage party? Yeah. And we're like, sure, why not? So we played at this garage party, and at the garage party, someone that was there said, "We're going to have a garage party. Can you come play at our garage party?" And we're like, "Yeah." And then our bass player down in the Portland area heard this. He's like, "Well, you know, if you guys are going to do that, I could come up once a month." And so we spent all this money on PA equipment. I got out of the other band. We resurrected Common Crossing, which was never broken up, but we were just kind of on hiatus. And so
we were like that super volcano under Yellowstone.
Right.
But
Just
see,
waiting.
the thing is, what I was trying to get at was I wasn't enjoying myself until Doug came in the picture. And then it was like, and now when I play, like every once in a while, I'll be like, someone wants to book us, the acoustic duo, for a show, and he can't do it. And I'll say, well, I'm going to do it just because, you know. And so I'll do it, and it'll just be very painful to get through it because Doug is not there. And he's literally, I enjoy my life better when Doug is there.
We're all going to get teary-eyed here in a minute, dude. Right? It's going to get mushy real quick.
I do. I call it my security blanket. I really do.
Well, you know, some people may describe Doug as he seems to be almost pure, you know, id, which, you know, Freud was like, it's the animal part of us. It's just, you know, like Animal from the Muppets, right?
Right. Play drums! Play drums!
Yes. So I could see that, because what you were describing before is that a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times songwriting is a little bit of a process, a little bit, you know, it's work.
It is.
And what you described in that song that you guys wrote together is that it didn't seem like work at all, right?
No.
Some of those concerns, no. And I think the key is in what you said, you know, we don't take ourselves too seriously, right? And right. It's like you said, it was the opposite sensibility when you're doing it by yourself. Sometimes you feel like you got something to prove, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So he manages to free you from that.
He takes my guard down for sure.
Yeah.
You know, just because we know that, like, when we start something, we know that something could come of it and something might not come of it. We don't care. We're doing it just because we like hanging out and we're having fun.
Yeah.
And those are the best. That's the best place to come from, I think.
Yeah.
It's like Brian is NASA and I'm the janitor. And I come in, I just
who knows how many rockets would not have made it to space had it not been for their janitor, right?
He'll be figuring out trajectories and trying to get people on Mars, and I'll be like, "Hey, I got a Snickers bar." Okay, I'm gonna go watch YouTube now.
Whenever I got, you know, my degree in creative writing, they basically taught us how to psych ourselves out, I think, basically. But they gave us this little exercise that we do when you start a new project, you know, writing a new project. And that's, you tell your left brain editor guy, you tie him up, put handcuffs on him, put him in a straight jacket, you throw him in the closet, tell him to shut the up until you're ready to hear from him, right? and you just let your right brain, you know, creative, artsy fartsy, you know, free spirit guy, you just let him do his thing and let whatever happens. And it doesn't matter if it's smart, doesn't matter if it's cool, doesn't matter if it's deep, doesn't matter if it's profound, doesn't matter if it's proper, acceptable. None of that matters. It's just letting it happen, right? And then once it's out, that's the first draft. And then you let the editor guy back out. Say, okay, I'll let you take a look at it, but you keep him on a leash. You know, you keep him on a leash. And that seems to help me. But I think one reason that seems so like it worked for me, like it made sense to me, was because the majority of my time as a musician, I mean, I've directed choirs and stuff at churches and stuff, right, and taught small groups and done that. But a lot of my stuff has been solo stuff anyway, you know. So I've had to somehow psych myself out, because obviously I'm very susceptible to some of those same kinds of things. That's what part of what freaked me out when I joined Star City, was feeling like, you know, what if I got to prove myself here, you know, and being overly self-conscious, you know.
Yeah, but we love you, man. So don't worry about it. You're good.
Well, I'm getting there now. And you know what I had to do? I had to psych myself out by wearing stupid hats and stuff. That's what I was. I was psyching myself out, man.
Tying your dude to a chair and waterboarding them. That's what you were doing.
Yeah, that's right. You know, the waterboarding always frees up the tongue, you know.
Shut up!
What's that quote, though? What is that? There's a quote. I don't know who the quote is. I remember a great quote from Randy Newman. I'm not sure if this is it, but don't let the critic become bigger than the creator.
No, that's a good way of saying it. Yeah.
You know?
Speaking of artists, man, I love Randy Newman.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah, what a songwriter. Yeah. Yeah. Well, very cool. So the initial idea, for me, songwriting, the initial idea is it's a little bit like riffing almost. And I find that I do a lot of my initial songwriting like in the car. Like between here and Augusta, or between here and work in Limestone.
Yep.
I don't know how many times I've driven to Augusta, my mom's house, and by the time I get there, I've got a brand new song, you know, and I basically know what chords and everything's going to go with it too. But I don't worry about that too much. I just sing the melody, how it seems to fit with the words. And it starts off with a line or two and an idea, and then I just keep, and it just slowly, it's there. And sometimes it winds up being crap, you know, honestly. But sometimes it's one I'm proud of and I keep, you know, and I start building tracks on it and record it too. So, yeah. So I love driving, man. I love driving with the radio off.
Yeah.
I love the radio too, but okay. Now you mentioned Common Crossing. You mentioned Star City Syndicate. You guys have been in other bands and stuff. Talk about some of the projects and stuff you guys have been a part of.
Well, don't forget the nuclear power plant that we were talking about.
Yeah. By the way, just I had to mention, years ago, I read a true story in the Reader's Digest about this kid who started building a nuclear device in his garage, and he was a brain, you know, and he realized that there were certain elements in like thermostats and stuff, and he started reading these old thermostats, and he managed to put together like a nuclear fission reactor, a small one, and the government showed up because they were starting to get these readings. So it's possible to do, guys. Don't actually do it though, because you probably don't have the equipment to protect yourself.
I got some duct tape. I'm all set.
So what was the question?
Oh, just tell us about all the various bands and projects you guys have been involved in or involved in, and the differences and how they compare. Just riff on that.
Well, Doug, do you want to talk about Common Crossing versus the Common Crossing duo?
Do I want to talk about it?
Yeah, because I feel like I've talked too much. Well, every time we play an acoustic,
it's different. In Common Crossing, there's 4 people, but in the duo, there's only 2.
That's hard,
right.
Man.
Right.
No, it's I think with the duo, it's more
free.
Free, yeah. Because I mean, because he can, like, somebody will request a song that I've never heard of, and he'll be like, "Oh yeah, I got it. Hold on," and then he'll like plink away on the, figure out the chords on the guitar, and then 2 minutes later he's singing the song, and I'm always just like, "What the frig happened, man? Where did that come from?" So, but then we still go off on it, and we can just do whatever. I mean, we play. If somebody requests something completely off the wall and he can figure it out, we'll play it. So
yeah, one of the cool things about it is, I think we approach the acoustic duo the same way we kind of approach the podcast. Is we're doing it for ourselves. So, like, if somebody requests a song, I'm a people pleaser at heart, which is sometimes a downfall. I want to make people happy. So when someone comes up and says, "Can you play, whatever song?" and Doug doesn't know the song and I don't really like the song, I'm still going to try and play it because they want me to play it. But we're going to put our own twist on it. And we're going to have fun with it, as much fun with it as we can. So he may not know the song, but he'll start singing along, and we'll start harmonizing, and we'll make it an O'Brien and Doug song. and I think when it comes to like with the Common Crossing, there's two other people, and so you're worried about, or I'm worried about, are they having fun? Are they enjoying this song that we're playing? Are they invested in the crowd? I'm worried about kind of how they're perceiving the band, and how they're perceiving the band in this context with the crowd and everything. And I'm worried about the crowd, whether the crowd is into it. With Doug and I don't care about the crowd. All I'm worried about is if Doug and I are having fun. And actually the same kind of thing it's a mix with Star City Syndicate.
Yeah.
It really is a mix because there's so many of us. I really can't worry about what other people their perception of it is. So I kind of isolate myself and Doug in the Star City. Well, maybe Chris Morton too. Make sure he's okay, because I want to keep the captain happy.
Yeah.
John Simonoff, maybe because we kind of call him the musical director. I know you're doing your job, so I'm not worried about it. I know that like Sarah on piano is doing her job. The horns are doing their job. I'm not worried about it. So I kind of isolate myself this is in my brain. I compartmentalize myself, and I put myself and Doug in one little thing. So what are we doing? Are we having fun? And I don't really care about the crowd. I shouldn't say I don't care about the crowd. I do care about the crowd. It's a mix. Like with Common Crossing, I care about how everything is perceived. With Doug and I don't, because we're having fun. Right. So with Star City Syndicate, I care a little bit about how we're being perceived and whether we're doing well, but I mostly care about, am I having a good time? And if we're having a good time, I think everybody's having a good time.
Yeah, and that generally, it's like Doug was saying a while ago. If he's having fun, then that speaks usually to everyone else, and they relax too.
Right. Right. God, I feel like I'm talking so much.
Now, how many different bands or things have you and Doug been in together? Or Doug, how many have you and Brian been in together? Try to switch.
Thank you.
To be honest with you, I wouldn't be in a band if it wasn't for him.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Wherever he's gone, except for the hard rock band he was in, I've always just followed him.
Well, tell the story of how that all started, because you started playing drums and stuff. Because I've never taken a drum lesson ever.
Okay.
He was in the Marines, and so when he got out of the Marines, I was living.
I've always had rhythm. And during like a squad run or a platoon run, I was always one keeping the cadence, and I would mix it up. I'd put like different like syncopated beats in, like along with the clap, because if you're sounding off, you're clapping. Trying to keep everybody motivated. I was clapping, and one of my platoon sergeants said I was the only white boy he ever met with rhythm. So and I've just always had natural rhythm, but I've never played drums. So then when I got out and I moved back home, Brian was playing, he was just out playing. I think you were playing at NM.
Yeah, we were going to dorm rooms and playing.
Yeah. And so he was like, why don't you come along and just like keep the beat? And I was like, oh, what am I going to keep the beat on? I don't have anything. So he gave me one of those egg shakers.
Yep.
And an old acoustic guitar that we broke the neck off of. So I would put the guitar, I had the body sitting in my lap, and I had this egg, and I was like, the egg was my hi-hat, and the guitar body was my snare. So
that'll work, man. That would work.
Yeah. So that was my first drum set, was an egg shaker and a acoustic guitar body. So
interesting.
And then we went we went to this dorm room in NM with a bunch of these girls that I'd never met, but he
It's
did.
always about a girl.
Oh, it's always about girls. That's why we get into rock and roll, is for girls. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's about. So we played, and then, kind of word spread out. And then he was like, why don't we start a band? I was like, okay. So we went up to Ezzy's Music in Van Buren. I bought my first drum set up there. And the rest is just kind of.
Yeah.
But I had to learn how to play drums by listening to other music, like play along to songs. That's the only way I learned how to play drums.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to learn, though.
Yeah,
playing with some of the greats. Yeah, that's the way I learned a lot of mine. Musicianship too. Yeah, that's a good word, not, but yeah,
I like it.
Listen to
so.
And as far as learning, for me on keyboard and things like that, learning chordal music, the tonal side of things, is I always did best if I picked out the bass line and the melody line, and then I could kind of fill in the middle.
Yep, that's the same with me.
Yeah. So pretty much Common Crossing Duo, and Star City, are those the only 3 projects you guys put together?
Before we were Common Crossing, we were the Blake Street Boys. Technically the same. Well, no, Shane wasn't in the Blake Street Boys.
No.
So there were a couple other guys. So I guess technically that would have been a band that you were in. Would be the Blake Street Boys, right? So Blake Street.
And then for a brief period, for about 2 weeks, we were the Barking Tree Spiders.
That's true.
So.
Chris has great fun with our band's names on our private page. For all of you out there who are listening to this and know us only as Star City Syndicate, right now, and this is probably like the 10th or 12th version, right now on our private page, we're Chipotle Pete and the Ramshackle Facsimiles.
That's a great name, man.
So I didn't realize that you guys had a penchant for crazy names too. Barking Tree Spider. That's great.
What is the band, the non-horn band that we're going to be coming out with here pretty soon?
Oh,
Reverend Funk and the Congregation.
Yes.
Yeah. Which sounds. I think we in the name of that band, Chris has captured a fun vibe that I want to make sure we keep. We're just gonna.
Absolutely.
We're just gonna have a blast. Have fun. Yeah. Now you said the Blake Street Boys. It almost sounds like you guys were doing Backstreet Boys covers or something.
Yeah, we got that. That's why we changed the name.
That's why we changed the name.
No, that is not what we're doing.
No, I lived on Blake Street.
Oh, okay.
So it was just a lame name. We changed to Common Crossing soon after.
I can imagine fans showing up and Justin Timberlake's autograph, and he's not there.
I look like him. I can do it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You could definitely pull it off.
Wilt Chamberlain.
Oh, man. Well, guys, listen. At some point, I'm building this library of these videos. And each of them are kind of the same thing we do. We have a conversation about how we make and create stuff and what we do with it and how much fun we have with it. And I'm thinking about in the future, possibly, this is, once again, that riffing creative thing happening, about doing some different kind of videos. They'll be still making it north, but instead of just conversations, about somehow capturing the creative process in the moment, and almost like a live creative moment. So I don't know, think about that. It'd be kind of cool if you had a song idea or something. And I don't know if the camera will make you freeze up or not. And some people, they get in front of a camera and they're like, and they don't know how to ignore it and just let the thing happen, but I don't know,
that doesn't bother us.
No,
I didn't get the sense that it does. Yeah. But anyway, man, as I thought I would, I had a blast, and I can't wait to see you guys Wednesday night. And
yes,
I'm sure we'll all be there, and the Black Flies will be too. So,
it's gonna be a blast.
Yeah,
it'll be worth it, man. This is gonna be worth it.
It will be, man. If I have bumps from head to toe, I'm gonna come home smiling anyway. All right, love you, dudes. Peace out.
You too, man.
Have a great.
Love you too, bro.
Thanks for doing this, bud.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, bye-bye.
All right, take it easy.